In Nigeria, gender-based violence is a serious and pervasive issue that can take many forms, including harmful customs like child marriage and female genital mutilation, as well as physical, sexual, and domestic abuse. According to data, 31% of women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical abuse and 9% have experienced sexual assault. However, many cases remain unreported because of cultural norms and inadequacies in the legal and reporting systems. Meanwhile, according to gender equality, everyone has the same rights, resources, opportunities, and protection regardless of gender. It is the condition in which a person's gender does not restrict their access to opportunities, healthcare, work, education, or political engagement.
Gender equality has to do with the push, to have equal treatment of both male and female. It's about the push towards having equitable distribution of resources. It's about the push towards having equal representation of both male and female in all spheres of leadership. It's about the push towards having even treatment, and of individuals without bias, without cultural inhibitions, without social inhibitions, but giving each person what they need, and also allowing the female to thrive as well as the male, allowing the male to thrive as well as the female, and giving no conditions, no barriers when it comes to various career choices that individuals want to make in life. Well, a lot of times women have been on the receiving end when it comes to economic empowerment, and sometimes economic disempowerment of women is usually a deliberate act to keep women at the lower level. And as such, when a woman is disempowered, when she has no access to resources, when she has no resources of her own, she's totally dependent on the other sex for her survival. Having access or even owning properties becomes difficult. We've also had situations where cultural barriers have prevented women from actually having or being able to own assets in the past, where we have practices such that bars women from inheriting properties because of cultures where we have strict male inheritance practices where the female is not allowed to inherit, or where the woman who loses her husband is not allowed to take charge of the property of the late husband. Those cultural practices are negative and they affect the women. We also have some clients where women are seen as being less capable or less favored when it comes to things like access to loans for businesses and the likes. And as such, when we have this consideration of all of these practices, it contributes in one way or another to the disempowerment of women. And that is why it seems as if women are less favored when it comes to owning properties or having access or having assets or even having access to such properties and for them to use to better their lives and that of their children, which is quite unfortunate.
Deep-rooted cultural norms and patriarchal attitudes, such as the notion that women are property and the belief in male supremacy, are the main causes of gender-based violence in Nigeria. These beliefs normalize destructive behaviors including forced marriage, female genital mutilation, and domestic violence. Poverty conflicts, such as rural banditry, ignorance, and deficiencies in the judicial and law enforcement systems that impede efficient prosecution and assistance for survivors are further variables that contribute to gender-based violence.
The harassment is so prevalent in this country to the fact that even we parents, we are so concerned about it. If you get to some schools, primary schools, they are being taught so many things about sexuality. And before you know it, the schools have been trying to help these children, but the society is not helping them. In a situation where some guys are living with children in a room, it is not even the best. But because of the because of the high cost of living, it makes accommodation so expensive for some people to afford. So they try to live with other families, And because of that, all these things, if not because of God, it is not easy. But we thank God that God is helping us.
We've had male who have come out to lay claim to sexual harassment. We've had reports of sexual harassment of male. We've had reports of young boys who have been assaulted sexually by their maids, by their brothers. We have reports of boys who have been, sexually assaulted by male, more or less like initiation into homosexualism. So these are practices that we've had reports of over time. So it's not peculiar to the female gender. However, on a scale of 1 to 10, we have a higher population of female who are being raped or assaulted than male. We have, we have a higher volume. It's more on one side than the other, and that is why we usually talk about it more in female crime. But men also get raped, boys get raped, men get assaulted. So either you are male or female, so long as you are a sexual being, which we all are, then you are at risk one way or another of a form of sexual harassment or another. However, it may be more for the female than the male. And so the causes are numerous. We have the proliferation of drugs in the system right now. We have drugs and illicit drugs flying all around, and a lot of people just use aphrodisiacs that will increase their sexual urge, and they begin to look around for whoever it is that's available that they can unleash terror upon. We have increase in impunity. People believe that they are above the law. People believe they can use money to buy their way out even when they are caught. And that is because a lot of times victims are afraid to press charges or are too ashamed to press charges and to also follow through till they get justice. And for this reason, we have a lot of people who get away with the crime and can go on ahead to even commit even more of such crimes in their society. Then we also have the proliferation of a lot of sexual sceneries. Pornography is everywhere. It's quite unfortunate. A lot of our young people are open, have access to pornographic materials. And when such happens, it affects their mindset. They want to experiment. They want to try things out, and as such, sexual assault and molestation becomes the order of the day. Then we also have lack of information. When our young boys and girls do not have right information, they go ahead to make uninformed choices.
Although the precise number of Nigerian children who may experience gender-based violence in 2025 is unknown, research indicates that child abuse is a serious problem. According to a survey from 2023 to 2024, 60% of the Nigerian children report having experienced violence of some kind. Although a precise figure is not yet available for reports on 2025, recent data from 2023 to 2024 shows concerning patterns, including reports of over 24,000 gender-based violence instances in a single month, and research indicating that around one-third of Nigerian women may at some point in their lives experience physical and/or sexual violence at the hands of an intimate partner. Furthermore, 1 in 4 girls and 10% of boys in Nigeria are victims of sexual violence, with 6 out of 10 youngsters experiencing some kind of abuse.
The only thing I can tell the government is that government should help the society. And at the same time, I want to talk to the parents. Take care of your children, the boys, the girls. It's not limited to the girls alone, even the girls too, the boys too. The parents should take care of their children. Anywhere you are going, you can go with your children. You can carry them along. Don't leave them to neighbors, to brothers, to uncles, to aunties, to cousins. All these things, it can cause any harm to the children. So please, the parents should try to do their own part.
First of all, we have the law, which is already in place. We have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, which Ondo State is one of the signatories. And the law in the state is also strengthened by the Agency Against Gender-Based Violence, which is OSAGBV, where the state already has the system in place to give protection to victims and to give legal support immediately to victims of sexual assault and rape and any other form of gender-based violence, be it wife battery, widow practices, and all the rest. And apart from the law, which we have, we are also pushing also for increase in awareness creation. It can never get enough. People are quick to forget what they've heard in the past. So when there is constant reminder of all of these things, it helps keep in mind that the law is there as a to punish those who go against it, those who unleash terror on others, and as well also the law is also there to protect victims. So anybody who has such intention will think twice, and choose between going to living a life in jail or living free, and bring also crime free. In addition to that, there's also a need for our cultural systems, to also begin to do more in protecting our young girls and also our young boys, because we live in a society where we shame the victims and protect the culprits. We live in a society where victims are usually shamed, they are usually derided, usually stigmatized. So long as we continue to stigmatize the victims, we will not have an end to this crime. But rather than stigmatize the victim, we need to stigmatize the culprit by shaming him. There are times we find men who are well-to-do, who are doing well, who are leaders in the society, who commit this crime. And what we are saying is that irrespective of who the person may be it a highly placed person, be it a lowly placed person, whoever it is that commits the crime should be given equal treatment. There should be no preferential treatment when it comes to treating issues of rape and assault and sexual and gender-based violence. There should be no preferential treatment. It's important for parents to always train their young boys to have self-control, to have adequate information. When young boys have self-control, they wouldn't go out to rape or assault or molest any other person, because they know that it's against the law and they will be punished for such a crime. Then they should teach their young girls to have self-awareness and self-respect. There are certain things in which a young girl shouldn't do. There are also certain places in which a young girl shouldn't find herself. You will know as a young girl if you are not safe in a place. You don't have to go there. So we need to teach our young girls to respect themselves. We need to teach them to also learn how to protect themselves, rather than crying foul and believing that they are helpless. They need to look inwards and bring out that strong person that they have within themselves. In addition, we also need to train our young boys and girls to know that whether you are male or female, it is not your making, and therefore you must have mutual respect for the other gender. Gender-based violence is a crime that must not be encouraged in any way, either in the family setting, in the church, in the mosque, in the society. It is one that all of us must jointly frown at, because that girl being molested or being assaulted or raped is somebody's daughter. That boy being arrested, being molested also is somebody's son. And if we all can protect that next person's son, next person's daughter, then we are going to make the world a better place for all of us.
Government prevention efforts against gender-based violence should center on strategic approaches, which includes empowering women and girls via economic and educational opportunities, bolstering legal frameworks, and guaranteeing their enforcement, influencing public opinion by involving men and boys, and investing in the capabilities of organizations and support services dedicated to women's rights. In order to prevent future abuse, the government can also enact and enforce laws that support gender equality, giving survivors of gender-based violence justice, improve the efficacy of protection orders, and guarantee mandatory arrests for intimate partner violence.